The war between humans and the dark alien race called the Varnik had ended just 2 months ago. Many heroes returned home. Among them was a human soldier named Tom. He was strong, calm, and known for his quick thinking. People respected him. But Tom never saw himself as special. He believed he only did what was right. Tom had fought on many alien planets. He had seen things most humans never imagined. He had lost friends and saved lives. After the war, he did not want medals or parades. He only wanted peace. He returned to Earth quietly and stayed in a small house near the forest. Every day he walked among trees, far from war machines and laser blasts. One morning, something strange happened. A silver drone landed in front of his house. It looked smooth and bright like glass. It opened a small hatch and handed Tom a glowing blue cube. The drone flew away without a sound. Tom held the cube and watched it shine in his hand. Suddenly, it spoke in a soft voice to the brave human Tom. "You are invited to the royal wedding of Princess Mira of the Velari Empire. Your presence is an honor to our people. A royal ship will arrive in 3 days to bring you to Velar Prime." Tom's eyes widened. The Velari Empire was one of the oldest and strongest in the galaxy. They were not human, but had helped fight against the Varnik. Tom remembered Princess Mira. During a battle on a snowy planet, she had been trapped. He had risked his life to save her. She had thanked him once, but he never saw her again. He looked up at the sky. A royal wedding on Velar Prime. Tom had never been to their homeworld. It could be a chance to visit a new place, meet old allies, and maybe enjoy a quiet celebration. He had no idea what the wedding was really about. 3 days later, a golden ship arrived. It landed gently near the forest. Tom stepped inside. The walls glowed with soft lights. A voice welcomed him and offered food and rest. The journey took 2 days. During that time, Tom looked out the window and saw stars pass by like falling snow. When the ship reached Velar Prime, Tom stood near the window in silence. The planet below was beautiful. It had silver towers that touched the sky. Rivers flowed in the air like glowing ribbons. He could see gardens hanging from floating stones. The sun above was blue and calm as the ship landed. Trumpets played. Aliens of many races stood in rows, holding flowers and banners. Some clapped, some bowed. Tom walked down the ramp slowly. He felt confused. Why were they cheering for him? A tall man in white armor stepped forward. He wore a silver helmet with the symbol of the Velari sun. "Welcome, human hero," the man said. "I'm Raylan, guard to the royal family. Princess Mira is waiting inside." Tom followed him into the palace. The halls were wide and bright. Crystals hung from the ceiling, and the walls glowed with soft gold light. Servants offered him drinks and strange sweet fruits. Everyone looked at him with smiles and respect. Some touched their hearts as he passed. He felt like he was in a dream. Inside the royal hall, Princess Mira stood in front of a pool of light. She wore a long dress made of silver threads. Her eyes were bright like stars. She smiled as he entered. "Tom," she said warmly, "I'm so glad you came." He bowed. "Thank you, Princess. I didn't expect this much welcome." She walked closer. "You saved my life. My people will never forget. This wedding means more than you know." Tom nodded politely. "I'm honored to be here. Who's the lucky groom?" Mira paused. She smiled but said nothing. Then she turned and spoke. To a servant, "Take Tom to his room. Let him rest. Tomorrow we begin the pre-wedding ceremony." Tom followed the servant, feeling puzzled. He entered a wide room with floating beds and shining walls. There were robes waiting for him. Food was served on a round table. He sat down slowly, trying to understand what was happening. Why did they treat him like a guest of honor? Why did Mira avoid answering his question about the groom? He shook his head. Maybe it was just their way of showing thanks. Maybe he was just overthinking. He lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling, which looked like the night sky of Earth. Stars blinked above him. He closed his eyes and tried to sleep, not knowing that the biggest surprise of his life was only one day. Tom woke up to a soft light shining through the crystal walls of his room. A gentle bell rang, and a servant entered with a tray of fresh fruits and warm bread. The servant bowed and spoke in a calm voice. "Good morning, honored guest. The princess has requested your presence in the garden hall." Tom sat up slowly. He still felt strange about the way everyone treated him. Even during the war, when he helped lead a charge or rescued others, no one ever treated him like this. He ate quietly, then dressed in the simple but elegant robe that was laid out for him. The robe was light blue and had silver lines on the sleeves. It felt smooth and comfortable. Outside the room, two guards waited. They smiled and led him through wide hallways filled with glowing plants and tall windows that showed the flying rivers outside. The palace was alive with music, lights, and movement. Servants walked quickly, preparing things for the wedding. Aliens from different worlds moved through the halls, wearing colorful clothes and speaking in many languages. As Tom entered the garden hall, he saw Princess Mira standing near a pond filled with floating flowers. She turned as he approached. "You slept well, I hope?" she asked. Tom nodded. "Yes, thank you. This place is peaceful. It doesn't feel like a war ever happened." Mira smiled. "That's what we want, a place where people can forget pain and start again." She walked beside him slowly. Birds with bright feathers flew over their heads. Strange trees with shining leaves moved gently in the breeze. It all felt like a dream. Tom looked at her. "So, the wedding is close. You must be excited." Mira laughed lightly. "Yes, it is very close. The ceremony begins tomorrow." Tom raised an eyebrow. "I still don't know who the groom is. You haven't told me." Mira gave him a calm smile. "It is a surprise." Tom chuckled. Strange kind of surprise. But all right. She led him to a circle of stone benches. A few alien nobles were waiting there. Some he had seen during the war. One was General Dern, a tall warrior from the stone world of Kor. Another was Lady Elena, a wise leader from the water clans. They all greeted Tom with warmth. "You haven't changed, soldier," said General Dern, still sharp in the eyes. Tom smiled. "And you're still taller than a tank." They all laughed. Then Lady Elena leaned forward and asked, "Do you know why you are really here, Tom?" Tom looked around. "To attend the wedding. That's what the message said." The general laughed. "They haven't told you? You really don't know?" Tom felt his chest tighten a little. "Know what?" Lady Elena smiled kindly. "You're not just a guest, Tom. You are the groom." Tom froze. For a moment, he thought they were joking. He waited for someone to laugh again, but no one did. They all looked at him seriously. "What?" Tom asked. "That can't be right." "I wasn't told anything like that." General Dern nodded. "It is an old law in the Villari royal family. If someone saves the life of the heir during war, they earn the right to join the royal line. It's rare. But you saved Princess Mira. You became part of that law." Tom stood up. "No one asked me. I didn't agree to this." Mira stepped forward calmly. "I understand this is a shock. My father, the emperor, decided to follow the law and honor it. He believes this marriage will bring peace and strong bonds between Villari and humans." Tom looked at her. "But what if I say no?" The garden went silent. Birds stopped singing. Even the air felt heavy. Mira spoke softly. "You're free to decide. But your choice will be seen by many across the stars. Some will feel hurt. Some might feel insulted. And some may question the honor of both our people." Tom walked away a few steps, trying to think. He had been through battles, explosions, and near-death moments. But this was different. This was personal. He turned around. "I'm just a soldier. I'm not a ruler. I don't belong in a palace." Mira looked at him kindly. "That may be true, but you already changed lives. You saved my life without asking for anything. That is what makes you worthy in the eyes of my people." Tom stayed silent. He did not know what to say. Part of him wanted to leave. Another part wanted to understand more. Later that day, Tom walked through the palace halls alone. He saw the workers building a tall stage for the wedding. He saw families arriving from distant planets, all dressed for celebration. He heard music from 100 instruments and saw dancers practicing under the light of the flying rivers. Everyone here expected something from him, but no one asked what he wanted. He returned to his room and sat by the window, Stars had started to shine outside. A servant brought tea and left quietly. Tom looked at his reflection in the glass. He thought about his friends who never made it home. He thought about the children he saw in war zones. He thought about peace. Maybe this wedding was more than a royal event. Maybe it was a symbol. Maybe it could bring real change. He still had doubts. He still felt lost. But he knew he had to decide soon. The next morning, the bells would ring, and the stars would gather. Tom stood on the palace balcony and watched the alien city below. Flying ships moved through the sky like birds. Tall crystal towers glowed in soft colors. The wind carried music from the streets as people prepared for the royal wedding. Banners waved, lights blinked, and voices cheered in many alien tongues. But Tom did not smile. He had learned the truth. He was not a guest. He was the groom. He remembered the moment clearly. General Dern and Lady Alena had told him the truth in the garden hall. Princess Mira had said nothing to deny it. The Villari royal law gave him the right to marry the princess after saving her life in the war. The emperor had already made the choice. Everyone in the palace believed he had accepted. But no one had asked him first. Tom was a soldier. He had trained for battle, not for royal duty. He had faced enemy fire, jumped from falling ships, and walked across broken lands. But nothing had prepared him for this. The door behind him opened. An old man in golden robes entered. His long white hair floated in the air. He carried a staff with a blue gem at the top. "You are awake early," the man said. Tom nodded. "Couldn't sleep." The old man walked to the edge of the balcony and stood beside him. "I'm Var-En," he said, "royal advisor to the emperor. I have served the palace for 60 years. Tom stayed quiet. "I know this must be strange for you," Var-En said. "Many years ago, I saw something similar. A soldier from a distant planet became part of this family. He was afraid at first, but he changed our world." Tom looked at the city again. "I didn't ask for this. No one told me the truth until yesterday." Var-En nodded slowly. "Yes, that was a mistake. We feared you might leave if you knew too soon. But the law was made long before any of us. The people already see you as one of us. Some even call you the protector of peace." Tom turned to him. "And if I say no?" Var-En held his staff with both hands. "The emperor will accept your choice. But many across the stars will be confused. Some will feel insulted. There are leaders here from powerful planets. They came for this union. They believe it will join human and alien worlds forever." Tom took a deep breath. "So I either marry someone I barely know or I bring shame to an empire." Var-En gave a soft smile. "You are not being forced, but sometimes a single step changes history. That is why the choice is hard." Tom left the balcony and walked through the palace alone. He passed rooms filled with flowers, glowing lights, and guests in strange clothing. Every corner of the palace was filled with color and music. But inside, Tom felt the weight of a mountain on his shoulders. He reached the garden again. Princess Mira stood near a tree with silver leaves. She turned when she saw him. "I was hoping to see you," she said. Tom walked slowly. "You knew." "I didn't understand the full truth." "Why didn't you tell me?" Mira looked down. "I was afraid. You saved me during the war. I owe you my life, but I didn't want you to feel trapped. I hoped maybe, once you saw our world, you would choose to stay." Tom looked at her. She was not wearing a crown now, just a simple white dress. She did not look like a ruler. She looked like a person trying to do the right thing. "You're not what I expected," Tom said. "I thought you'd act like someone who only cared about power. But you seem honest." "I try to be," she said. "I was trained to lead. But I never asked for a life like this, just like you didn't ask to be a groom." They sat near the glowing pond. A soft breeze moved across the water. "I don't know how to be a king," Tom said. "You don't need to know everything today." Mira replied, "You already have courage. That matters more than royal blood." Tom stared at the sky above. Small ships flew in perfect lines, practicing for tomorrow's show. He turned to her. "Do you want this marriage?" Mira was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I want peace, and I believe you can help us protect it. I don't want to marry someone who feels forced, but I won't lie. I admire you. I feel safe around you. Maybe that's enough for a beginning." Tom stood up and walked toward the palace. His mind was still full of questions, but he was starting to see things differently. He had always followed orders, always fought when needed. Now, he had to decide not just for himself, but for something bigger. Inside the main hall, more guests had arrived. Some bowed to him, others whispered as he passed. They already saw him as part of the story. He saw General Dern again, speaking with warriors from a desert world. Dern gave him a short nod, the kind only soldiers understood. It said, "You have already earned respect." Tom went to his room and looked in the mirror. He still saw a tired soldier, but behind the lines on his face, he saw something else, someone others believed in. The bells rang across Velar Prime, the final day. Before the wedding had begun, Tom stood in front of a tall mirror, as servants helped him wear the ceremonial robe of Velari tradition. The robe was white with blue and silver threads running across the shoulders. A golden belt was tied around his waist. It was light and smooth, but Tom felt the heavy meaning behind every thread. He looked at himself for a long time. A human soldier dressed like a prince. It still did not feel real. A young servant bowed and spoke politely. "The Emperor is waiting in the Star Chamber." Tom nodded. His heart beat faster as he walked through the wide hallways of the palace. Guards in polished armor stood at every corner. The air smelled of sweet flowers and old stone. Music echoed softly in the distance. Every sound, every light, every step reminded him that this day was not ordinary. He reached the Star Chamber, a round room with a high glass ceiling. The stars above Velar Prime could be seen clearly. In the center of the room stood the Emperor. He was tall and calm. His silver robe moved like water as he turned to face Tom. His face was marked with age but full of strength. His eyes were bright. "With wisdom, Tom of Earth," the Emperor said in a steady voice, "you stand here today not as a soldier, but as a chosen one." Tom bowed slightly. "I still don't know if I deserve this honor." The Emperor walked forward. "Honor is not taken, it is given. You saved my daughter's life. You fought without fear. The people trust you. I trust you." Tom looked up. "You already planned this marriage before I arrived. Why didn't anyone ask what I wanted?" The Emperor stayed silent for a moment. Then he said, "Because time was short and peace was fragile. This union is more than a ceremony. It is a message, a bridge between your world and mine." Tom crossed his arms. "What if I refuse? What if I walk away?" The Emperor stepped closer. "Then you will still leave as a hero. We will honor your name, but others may see your choice as rejection. They may think we failed to keep our promise. Some leaders may grow cold again. You know how easily peace can break." Tom felt the pressure. It was not just about him. The eyes of many worlds were watching. He did not ask for this role, but now he stood in the center of something larger than any battlefield. The Emperor placed a hand on his shoulder. "You do not have to become a king. Mira will rule, and you will stand beside her, as a guide, as a symbol of unity." Tom nodded slowly. "Then let me speak with her. I need to hear her words before I decide." The Emperor agreed and waved to the guards. "Bring the princess." A moment later, Mira entered. She wore a simple dress of soft white cloth. Her hair was tied with silver bands. She looked strong but calm. When she saw Tom, she smiled gently. The Emperor left the chamber, giving them space. Mira stood beside him. "You still have doubts?" she said. Tom nodded. "Yes. I was trained to survive battles, not walk in royal halls." "You were also trained to protect people," she said. "That is what we need. Someone who understands the pain of war. Someone who values peace." Tom looked up at the stars above. "Do you believe this marriage can really change anything?" Mira stepped forward. "Yes, not because of the crown or the ceremony, but because it shows that two worlds with different lives can walk together. When others see us, they will remember the war is over. They will believe in something new." Tom looked into her eyes. He remembered the battle when he found her trapped under rubble. She had not cried. She had not screamed. She had held his hand and whispered, "Thank you." That small moment had stayed in his heart ever since. Mira placed a hand on his arm. "This is your choice. Tom, no one will force you, but I hope you stay. Not for duty, not for law, but because we can build something better together." Tom stayed silent. He closed his eyes for a moment and let her words settle in his mind. When he opened them, he saw not a princess, but a partner. "I will stay," he said. "I don't know what kind of husband I'll be, but I'll try. I'll stand with you." Mira smiled. It was not the smile of royalty. It was the smile of someone who felt safe. Later that evening, a small gathering was held in the Sky Chamber. A formal agreement between Tom and the royal family was written and sealed. Alien leaders from many worlds placed their signatures as witnesses. Light crystals glowed above as the words were spoken aloud. The bond between Tom of Earth and Mira of Velar begins not from blood or birth, but from choice and respect. Tom held the seal in his hand. It was a simple ring made of glowing stone. Mira wore the same. They placed the rings on each other's fingers. No grand words were needed. The moment was enough. After the ceremony, the emperor raised his hand and spoke to the gathered crowd. "This is not just a marriage. This is the first step toward a shared future. Let this bond remind us that peace must be protected by brave hearts, no matter where they are born." The crowd cheered. Music played louder. Flags of different worlds waved in the air. Tom stood beside Mira as the stars above shined brighter than ever. The stars were still shining over Velar Prime as the wedding day drew near. Only one night remained. The palace was full of light and sound. Musicians played soft tunes in every hall. Servants moved quickly to prepare gifts, dresses, and food. The air carried a sweet smell of warm spices and bright flowers. Everywhere people were smiling, laughing, and celebrating. But inside Tom's heart, there was silence. He walked alone through the floating gardens. The pots were lit with glowing stones, and soft lights danced across the water pools. Tall trees swayed in the cool breeze. Tom had been part of battles, had seen burning skies, broken cities, and lost friends. This was the first time in many years he felt peace. Yet peace was not the same as comfort. Voices echoed in his mind. The emperor's words about duty, Mira's calm voice filled with hope, the cheers of the crowd in the Sky Chamber. They had welcomed him with open arms. But deep inside, Tom still questioned his place. He walked past a crystal bridge and found a quiet bench under a large blue tree. He sat down and closed his eyes. His thoughts returned to the war. He remembered the soldiers who had fought beside him. Some were gone forever. He remembered saving Princess Mira, carrying her across the battlefield as fire rained from the sky. That moment had changed everything, even if he didn't know it at the time. Still thinking, came a voice. Tom opened his eyes. General Dern was walking toward him. The old warrior still wore his thick armor, even during peace. He sat down beside Tom with a heavy sigh. "I've seen that look before," Dern said. "It's the look of a soldier trying to make peace with something big." Tom smiled a little. "You guessed right. I'm still not sure if I made the right choice." Dern looked up at the stars. "You made a hard choice. That's usually the right one. Only fools think everything is easy." Tom leaned forward. "What if I fail? What if I disappoint her, or worse, bring trouble instead of peace?" Dern chuckled. "You're thinking too far ahead. You're not trying to conquer a planet. You're just joining your life with hers. The rest will come in time." Tom looked at the old general. "Have you ever made a choice like this?" Dern nodded slowly. "Long ago, before the war, I chose to stay behind on my world and lead the defense when my people fled. Everyone thought I was foolish, but later they said it was brave. You don't know if a choice is good or bad until after you live with it." Tom stood up. "Thanks. That helped. More than you know." Dern smiled. "That's what old warriors are for." As Tom walked away from the bench, he felt a little lighter, but his thoughts were not yet settled. He needed space to decide, not just as a soldier, but as a person. He left the gardens and entered the upper tower. It was quiet there. Only the sound of soft wind filled the rooms. A large round window showed the stars in the sky. Tom sat there, staring at the endless space. So many worlds, so many lives. And here he was, Just one man standing at the edge of history. Hours passed. No one disturbed him. Then he heard gentle steps. He turned and saw Mira standing at the doorway. "I thought you might be here," she said. He smiled. "You know this palace better than I do." She walked over and sat beside him. For a moment, they said nothing. The stars above spoke louder than words. "I don't want to trap you, Tom," Mira said softly. "If you want to leave, I will not stop you." He looked at her. Her eyes were clear and honest. "No crown, no robe. Just Mira, the person, not the princess." "I've been thinking all day," Tom said. "About my life, the war, the people I lost. I've never been afraid to fight. But this is different. This is about trust, not strength. About joining to worlds, not just winning battles." Mira nodded. "I understand. I feel the same." He took a deep breath. "Back on Earth, we have a saying. When you find peace, don't run from it." Mira looked into his eyes. "And have you found peace?" Tom smiled. "Maybe not fully, but standing beside you, I feel close to it." She reached out and took his hand. He held it gently. "I choose to stay, Mira, not because of law, not because of the crown, but because I believe in what this marriage can be, and I believe in you." Her smile was full of light. No words were needed. That one moment said everything. The next morning, the palace bells rang across Velar Prime. The sky turned gold with light. Ships formed a wide circle in the air above the city. People gathered in every hall, every street, every corner. Flags of many worlds waved proudly. It was the day of the wedding. Tom stood in front of the great hall dressed in his final robe. It was white with golden edges and the mark of Earth and Velar together. The same mark was on Mira's gown. They walked side by side into the chamber, where leaders from over 30 worlds had gathered. The Emperor stood with pride. General Dern stood in his armor, smiling. Lady Elena raised her hands in blessing. The ceremony had begun. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear. The sun of Velar Prime cast soft light over the city. People from many worlds filled the streets and halls of the palace. The air buzzed with excitement. Music floated from every corner, and colors of every shade moved like rivers of light. Tom stood beside Princess Mira in the great hall. He wore the royal robe of white and gold. The fabric shimmered under the shining crystals. Mira's gown was soft and silver, flowing like water. Her eyes sparkled with calm and hope. For Tom, the moment felt strange and new. He was a soldier, used to the sounds of battle and commands shouted in chaos. Now, he stood quiet, listening to music and watching smiling faces. It was a peace he had never known before. The Emperor stepped forward. His voice was strong and clear. "Friends and allies from across the stars," he said, "today we witness not only the joining of two hearts but the joining of two worlds. This marriage is a symbol of hope, of trust, and of peace." He looked at Tom and Mira. "Tom, human soldier, you have earned respect through courage and kindness. Mira, Princess of Velari, you show wisdom and strength. Together you bring new light to our future." Tom felt the eyes of many beings upon him. Some looked with hope, others with curiosity. All waited for his words. The priest of Velar Prime stepped forward, a tall figure dressed in robes of deep blue. His voice echoed in the hall. "Do you, Tom of Earth, take Princess Mira as your partner, to stand with her in peace and in strength, in good times and hard times?" Tom looked at Mira and nodded. "I do." The priest then turned to Mira. "Do you, Princess Mira of Velari, take Tom of Earth as your partner, to stand with him in peace and in strength, in good times and hard times?" Mira smiled and said, "I do." The priest raised his hands. Light crystals above began to glow brighter. A soft hum filled the air. "Let these rings be the bond that joins your lives and your worlds." Tom and Mira took rings made of glowing stone from a silver tray. They placed them on each other's fingers carefully. As the rings touched their skin, the crystals above burst into colors. The ceiling of the great hall turned into a sky of stars. Ships flew in perfect patterns, shining trails behind them. People gasped in awe. Tom felt warmth spread through his body. He looked at Mira. She smiled and squeezed his hand gently. A wave of music and light filled the room. The wedding was more than a ceremony. It was a promise. After the ceremony, the crowd cheered. Leaders from many planets spoke words of peace and friendship. The Emperor raised his hand again. May this day mark the beginning of a new era, where humans and Valari and all our allies walk together as one. Tom and Mira stood side by side on a balcony overlooking the city. The sky was filled with ships dancing in celebration. Below, people waved flags and smiled. Mira looked at Tom. You did not come here knowing you would be the groom, yet you stood with courage. Tom smiled. I was scared, but now I see this is bigger than me. We have a chance to build peace, not just fight for it. Mira nodded. Together, we can make sure peace lasts. They watched as the city below began a great feast. Tables were filled with food from many worlds. Music played, and children danced. Tom felt a lightness in his heart. He was no longer just a soldier. He was part of something greater. He was part of a future where humans and aliens could live as friends and allies. As the stars shone above Velar Prime, Tom knew this was only the beginning. Weeks had passed since the wedding on Velar Prime. The city had returned to its calm, but the memory of the celebration stayed alive in the hearts of many. Tom and Mira had begun their new life together as leaders of two worlds joined by trust. Tom woke early each day to the soft light of Velar Prime's sun. The palace that once felt strange was now his home. He learned the ways of the Velari people, their customs, their history, and their hopes. Each morning, he met with advisors, soldiers, and diplomats. He listened carefully and spoke honestly. Mira stood beside him always. She was a wise queen and a strong partner. Together, they planned for the future. One morning, Tom walked through the palace courtyard. He saw young warriors training with wooden swords. Their movements were sharp and full of energy. He remembered his own training on Earth and smiled. A young Velari soldier named Jor approached him. Sir Tom, may I ask a question? Tom nodded. Of course, Jor. I have heard stories of your battles. How did you face fear and still stand strong? Tom looked at the boy's eager face. Fear is natural. It is not the absence of fear that makes a warrior, but the choice to stand and fight despite it. I thought about the people I protected. That gave me strength. Jor nodded, inspired. Tom knew that his role was not just to rule, but to teach, to show that humans and Velari could learn from each other. His experience as a soldier was now a bridge for peace. In the days that followed, Tom worked with the Velari peacekeepers. He helped design training to protect the weak and stop violence before it began. He talked with diplomats from human worlds and alien planets. Many were hopeful. Some were still cautious. One afternoon, Mira joined Tom in the Great Hall. She carried a book of ancient laws. We must respect the old ways, she said, but we must also grow. Tom agreed. Peace is like a garden. It needs care and patience, and sometimes new seeds. They smiled at each other, ready to face the challenges ahead. One evening, Tom stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The stars were bright. Ships moved slowly across the sky. Below, lights from the city shone like tiny jewels. Mira joined him quietly. Do you ever miss Earth? She asked softly. Tom looked out at the stars. Sometimes. But here, I have found a new family, a new purpose. Mira took his hand. You have become a true leader, Tom, not because of a crown, but because of your heart. Tom smiled. I never dreamed of being a king, but I will do my best. As time passed, stories spread across the galaxy. The human who became a Velari prince was not just a ruler, but a symbol of hope. His courage and kindness inspired many leaders from other worlds began to meet more often. Treaties were signed. Trade grew. Old enemies started to talk instead of fight. Tom and Mira traveled to distant planets, bringing messages of friendship. Wherever they went, people welcomed them warmly. One day, Tom stood before a group of children on a distant world. They listened eagerly as he told stories of Earth and Velar Prime. He spoke of courage, hope, and peace. Afterward, a little girl asked, "Are you a king?" Tom smiled and nodded. Yes, but a king is not only someone who wears a crown. A king is someone who cares for his people and works to make life better for all. The girl smiled and hugged his hand. Tom looked up at the sky and thought of the journey he had taken from a soldier who fought wars to a leader who built peace. He knew the road ahead would not always be easy, but with Mira beside him and the support of many worlds, he believed that humans and aliens could walk together into a brighter future. The human soldier had become a king, not by birth, but by choice, and that made all the difference.